Namaste. We are with Gautamji once again for today's podcast. Gautam, thank you so much for your time.
Most welcome.
Gautam, today I wanted to do a very fundamental and important topic with you, and I feel this could pretty much be a very important roadmap for many aspiring devotees of Baba.
Mm-hmm.
And a few years ago, I had come across a beautiful article by Robert Adams, the Advaita teacher,
Right.
in which he had made a very clear distinction on the types of devotees that exist.
Mm-hmm.
So, how he classified it is he said there are the beginners, the seekers, then he said there are the disciples, and then the highest is the devotees.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in some circles, the words are interchanged for devotee and disciple. We'll put that aside. But he gave some characteristics of these three types, and I found it particularly helpful in my journey. And I thought if we could just have a discussion around this, hopefully, there are some very nice pointers sincere devotees could take from it.
Right.
So, Gautam, how he said it was there are in the beginners, there are the seekers who essentially explore different paths, explore different teachings,
Mm-hmm.
and this journey may actually go on for various lifetimes.
Right.
And then he said, comes the stage where a seeker will then become a disciple, where he will either come to one teaching or one master and settle down essentially on that path. So if it is bhakti, then it's only bhakti. If it is, say, vipassana, then it's only that. And he will not jump about from every teacher that he could go to or every talk in town.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said the highest stage is the devotee, where that devotee is committed to the master, and the only interest of that person is to serve the master and even forget self realization, has no desire or will of their own. Their only thing is to serve the master and be in the master's presence.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave a beautiful example of Bhagwan Raman's devotee who used to fan him for 50 years. He never spoke a word. He would just stand there next to him all day
Mm-hmm.
and fan him. And one day he dropped dead, the devotee, and Bhagwan said he's not coming back.
Right.
So he gave that example, and I felt from the devotees we have known on the channel, like the ones that are intimately connected with Baba, there are some characteristics people can see wherever they are on their journey, and there's a lot to take away from this.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought if we could talk about this.
Sure, we can. The way I look at it is, let's take a seeker's journey with Baba and what these three stages mean. Now, as you said, the seeking could be such that Baba is one of the masters you are interested in his teaching and following him, and there are others as well. Then what happens is, like you said again, you focus only on Baba's teaching because that appeals to you the most.
Yes.
So after you have looked around, imbibed and absorbed different messages, what different masters have said, you've settled in on one master. Now comes the third stage of being a devotee. You see now, and in this case, we know that Baba is not in form anymore. So how can one be a devotee? And what is it being a devotee? If one is living and breathing the master's teaching, then one is a devotee. You see? So that means every aspect of your life, and in fact we recently covered the law of attraction, and that is a great example because it relates to this point. Now if you are anchored in Baba's words and teaching, and everything in your life, morning to evening, all the events that transpire, you are viewing and acting as per the teaching, then you are a devotee.
Yes.
So for example, very simple example, let's say Baba says do not bark at anyone as if they are dogs. If you are living that, you are a devotee. If you have studied that, understood that, and it makes sense to you at an intellectual level, but yet you find you're losing your temper, you're rude to people, you're still a disciple.
Correct.
So this is a very important leap from being the disciple to being the devotee. The devotee lives the teaching. The disciple has certainly absorbed the teaching. There is definitely an intent on the disciple's part because he or she has been drawn to it.
Yes.
He or she understands, yes, what Baba says makes sense. I should not be rude to anyone. I should see Baba's form. But it has not yet sunk into the heart.
Correct.
And that is also natural. That's a process, you see, because we have years and years of conditioning behind us. So it takes time for that conditioning, the old conditioning, to be replaced by the new conditioning.
Yes.
So it is a process. It's not like there's one batch of people who are disciples, one batch who are devotees. It's actually an internal process which Robert is pointing out too, that don't get stuck on being a disciple, because the growth is from the disciple stage to the devotee stage.
Yes.
Now the other point is, we are saying that the devotee lives the teaching, because now in this case the form of the master is not here in the flesh.
Yes.
So what spontaneously happens with devotees, if you have experiences of meeting living masters, you will find that he or she has a group of volunteers who have offered a large part of their time in seva. Why? Because they have been impacted so much, they want to offer back. They obviously cannot offer back spiritual wisdom because that is what they have received.
Correct.
So what is the next best thing you can offer? The lifespan you have been given, the intellect you have been given, the abilities you have been given. So you offer that back to the master, to the teaching. So you're of some service in spreading the teaching so that others may benefit too.
Yes.
Now in the case of a living master, that offering could be in terms of spreading the teaching or in looking after the master if he needs looking after. You see, that is circumstantial. But even the ancient masters of India have said, like, if you have a guru, everyone in the guru's family, everyone connected with the guru, you have to treat them all with the same level of respect and love.
Yes.
That was the reverence given to the guru. Now that only happens when one is a true devotee, because at the disciple stage, it may not still be in one's awareness that, this must flow also from me to the master. So this is what Robert Adams, according to me, is trying to point out, the different stages.
I feel, Gautam, the very awareness of this, once it seeps in, it will bring, if not the acceleration, or at least it will give them a clear roadmap that this is the direction I am going forward in.
Yes.
And Gautam, talking of masters and being of their service, there is one thing I have observed, and in fact even Robert had spoken about this. He said today, and he said this in the 1990s, today it's even more exaggerated than that time, is there are more masters at every corner. Some of them are obviously not real masters, but he said it is important for the devotee to have not a relationship with the master where they see them once a year at a retreat and in their minds think they've ticked the box that, oh, I have a master. I mean, okay, that is fine. But he said the relationship he emphasized on was where there is a personal relationship, as you beautifully said earlier, that the inner circle, where they serve the master, they are impacted by the teaching. And that is the sort of relationship, if one has, then they could say we are devotees. Because if they just see the master on a stage and believe, oh, he is my guru, and that is it, on one level that is fine. but it is really that inner circle of those devotees who have spent time with the master, and the master knows exactly what is going on in their lives. It is not like, oh, we just meet every 6 months and then they go back to their own lives. So could you talk about that aspect a little bit?
Well, that also is circumstantial in the sense, I'll give you an example with my teacher Ramesh ji. There was a lawyer from Sweden. He was perhaps in the top 10 in Sweden, of the top 10 of his practice. He was quite wealthy, he had other businesses also.
Yes.
Now, because of his commitments to law, because he was such a busy man, he would still take time, come out to Bombay maybe once a year, twice a year, and be at the feet of his master. Now, beyond that, he could not do much because he could only come down for 2-3 days. So, what did he do when he went back? He liked a particular book of Ramesh ji's called Sin and Guilt.
Yes.
Small book. He offered his time to translate that book in the Swedish language because he felt his fellow Swedish brothers and sisters would greatly benefit from the message in that book.
Yes.
So, although he was thousands of miles away, this is how the seva was returned. He had no interest, he didn't need the money, he didn't care whether the book sold or not. He did what he thought he should do because this message impacted him, he wanted to share it. So, what I'm trying to say is, even if one can't physically be there for circumstantial reasons, that doesn't mean one can't do seva.
Exactly.
That is the main thing, and this is, I'm going back to the pre-internet days I'm talking about, and the intent is there, and that should actually arise naturally, because in his case, obviously he was so deeply impacted that he wanted to share it. And my teacher saw this because when we published this book called Peace and Harmony in Daily Living in the year 2003. Ramesh ji dedicated the book to Goran. Goran was his name. Because he could see the sincerity.
Correct.
You see, so that is what is actually a devotee's seva, if you ask me.
And Gautam, then one other aspect I see which is very close to this is the settling down on one path. Say if it is a young aspirant and initially fine they're exploring different paths, they'll come to Baba, they'll go to a few other teachers, teachings, and for some time that is fine, but ultimately then to settle down on one path. And many ask that what is the crux of what Hemama and I have, and I say, see, it is that love in their heart for Baba. I mean, literally their whole existence is Baba.
Right.
It is not that you'll ever imagine I is interested in reading books, or they have any other interests of that sort. So, while initially a little bit may be fine, a little bit of reading, a little bit of, practices, but ultimately then one has to settle down.
Yeah. It is like Nisargadatta Maharaj said that to get water from the land, you don't dig shallow wells all over the land, but rather one deep well. You see, that is what he had said. Also, what tends to happen is when initially, of course, when we are exploring teachings, we start comparing them. I have experienced this myself. Many people write to me telling me, oh, this master said so and so, what are your views on it? Now, that is not fair. That is not fair to that person, that is not fair to me, and that is not fair to the seeker.
Correct.
You see, because if you are following one teaching, you decide what your views are on it based on your mind intellect, whether it satisfies you, whether you see your life being transformed. But what the mind tends to do is it tends to accumulate, in this case, various concepts and teachings, and then pit one against the other and start judging them.
Correct.
That is the Maya of the mind, you see. Now, I would like to add something here specifically in relation to Baba, and this is a feeling which I have been feeling. See, a lot of Sai Baba's teachings are pure Jnana Yoga.
Yes.
Now, over the course of time, mostly it's been his chamatkars and miracles which have drawn the people. I do feel that a different time has now come where Baba's teachings will not only be known but spread based on his teachings of Jnana Yoga.
Correct.
If you just look at chapter 4 of the Satcharita, on which we have done a short commentary, while I have focused on a story, the whole beginning section, if you read, is all Jnana Yoga.
Yes.
So I do feel that is why I keep using this phrase, living the teaching. Now, someone like Hema Ma and I, they like I is of a simple mindset.
Yes.
The way she will live it is through her heart, because she takes Baba's words as the command. But there may be a different set of people today, perhaps youngsters, perhaps someone more inclined to the path of knowledge, who will now be exposed to Baba's words of wisdom on this.
Correct.
And then how he absorbs them, imbibes them, and lives them, he or she, that is also living the teaching. So that, all these options are placed before us by the same master, by the same teaching. And they are not really two different paths. Jnana and Bhakti, what is it? Jnana is saying that nobody does anything. Everyone is an instrument of the divine. And what is Bhakti saying? Bhakti saying is love the God in everyone.
Correct.
Are they any different? They are not. The essence is the same, but some are inclined to Jnana, some are inclined to Bhakti. Point is that either way, it is living the teaching, either through Bhakti or through Dhyana. You have to look at those people who are shining examples of living the teaching.
Gautam, regardless of one's inclination, whether it is knowledge or bhakti, the thing the devotee will have in common between these two classes is that Baba comes first.
Right.
And essentially that is what I see in common with all the intimate devotees, that despite their practices or anything, their whole existence is Baba, to serve him, as you said, or whatever it is.
Right.
And I just keep coming back to this one thing, that by the very knowledge of this and the very remembrance of this fact, it can take one very far on their journey. For example, if one is a young seeker, because a lot of energy otherwise may just be expelled jumping from one path, and could make someone in fact even more lost or restless reading 50 books and sharpening the mind more, trying to gain more knowledge, because essentially the devotees are pretty much empty, because that is when they get what Baba is giving them.
Yeah, but see, when one is young, it is the age of adventure and exploration. So I think that is not something someone who is inclined to that can avoid.
Yes.
What will happen is, at a certain point in their journey, they hopefully will reach a stage where they ask, so far, whatever I have imbibed, has it made a difference to my life?
Yes.
Out of the 5 teachings I've gone to, 5 masters I've visited, is there one who has touched me more deeply than the others?
Yes.
This is the stage where there can be the transformation from the seeker to the disciple. Now, it is not necessary that this happens. I will tell you, I gave a talk in Pune, and there was a man around 60 years old. And his question was exactly this. He said, I've done so many practices, I've met so many masters, and I've done pranic healing, and I've done Reiki, and I've done tarot, and I've done numerology, and I've studied astrology, and I've been to Advaita teachers, I've been to Bhakti masters, and so on. He went on with the long list. And he said, how do I know? And this was a very sincere question. How do I know which one is for me?
Yes.
So I said, you should have asked this question to yourself 20 years ago. Because at least then you would have known, what am I looking for? See, if I know I'm looking for an object, when I get that object, my search is over.
Correct.
Most people don't ask this question. And as my teacher would say, what everyone on the spiritual path is looking for, whether they know it or not, is peace of mind. Right? So I told him, I said, now, do you agree with me that what you are looking for fundamentally is the end of the seeking? Because you've been doing it for now, God knows what age he started, but he was 60.
Correct.
And the seeking will end when you are at peace. So now review all the practices you did, all the teachers you met, and ask yourself this question: which one gave me more peace? Now you may come to this conclusion after this investigation, in which case you go back to that one, that specific one, and drop the others. Or you may feel that actually I have not felt at peace with anyone, with any practice. Now continue the search, but knowing, now I know what I am looking for. That is very important, you see. So let's take someone, whether they are 30 years old, whether they are 60 years old, and let's say they've come to Baba's teaching. Ask yourself, has this teaching given me peace and solace? Obviously, I'm drawn to it. And then go deeper into the teachings, investigate further into the teachings, read the Satcharita, underline sentences which, impact you, so you can look at them again and live that teaching.
Yes.
That is the way to, like Maharaj said, dig deeper in one place rather than shallow wells all over the place. And you see, the main thing is, when you are absorbed in one master's teaching, that becomes the content of your consciousness. You see, your entire consciousness, morning to evening, will be full of that vibration. That is being a devotee. If you think of your master all the time, you're a devotee. That's what happens.
So I hope this is some helpful pointers that devotees can reflect on, and there's something for them to take away. Gautam, is there something else you would share that maybe I've not asked you? Anything you would like to add?
Not really, but I would like to use you as a case in point. Today there is so much in terms of technological skills, avenues available to share teachings, social media,
yes,
digital technologies. They are great opportunities for seva. So I would like to say this especially for your younger audience, that if they are moved by your channel, by your videos, by any channel, let's say on Sai Baba for example, offer your services, offer your time, because you will enjoy it. You will love what you're doing, you will enjoy it, and it's a great contribution to make, because you're helping your fellow brothers and sisters discover what you discovered. That's all I'd like to say.
Yeah, so those who are inclined, who've been impacted, are welcome to get in touch, and there actually is a lot of work that we could do some help with. So if anybody would like to, they are welcome to write to us. So Gautam, thank you so much for your time and for your wisdom on this very important topic.
My pleasure, Nick.
Yeah, and hopefully we can continue these series of conversations with you.
God willing, God willing.
Yeah, Baba willing.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Thank you, Gautam.